The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From Radio Beacon to Radio Beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Wow, what a depressing day yesterday was on every freaking front that you could possibly imagine. Watching Corey Lewandowski testify yesterday and do everything that he could to mock and belittle Congress was really the most incredible indication that our democracy is nearly dead. At least it's on life support. Now, focus your attention over on Israel, who has a parliamentary system, not a Republican democracy that we have, and we don't know who won their election. Fast forward next November, 2020. How many days do you think it'll be before we know who won ours? See what I mean there? See what I mean? So here we have, a guy yesterday who decided that Congress is such a small portion of, divided and co-equal branches of government that he could just whiz all over it. And that is what he did. He shook his head. He rolled his eyes. He denied, his ability to answer questions. He invoked privileges, which he said out loud were not even his to invoke. Okay, I mean, he literally sat there and then he threatened. He called Eric Swalwell, President Swalwell, in the most condescending, contemptuous, yes, there's that word, manner you could possibly think of, and then told Eric Swalwell that the note that was dictated to him by Donald Trump to give to Attorney General at the time, Jeff Sessions, in order to give a speech to the American people ahead of the Mueller investigation being completed, saying that Donald Trump did nothing wrong, that he put it in a safe, congressman, that's very big and holds a lot of guns. Now, you may have heard me yesterday calling for inherent contempt to be invoked, as opposed to civil contempt, which goes to the courts to decide. We have civil contempt in courts right now with regard to Hope Hicks, Don McGahn. Obviously, Rick Dearborn was told to defy a subpoena yesterday, as was Rob Portman told to defy a subpoena yesterday. Today, we have the acting director of national intelligence defying a subpoena from the intelligence community because our intelligence, according to a whistleblower inside the intelligence community, is twisting and bending intelligence to benefit somebody in the executive branch. And Donald Trump has ordered his acting director of national intelligence to defy a subpoena. We are in a constitutional crisis. We have been for some time now. The only thing that I can show you that would give life to it is Corey Lewandowski, who decided that he should use his time in front of Congress to question Democrats' patriotism, to mock the former special counsel Robert Mueller, to denigrate the former FBI director James Comey. He made a crack about Hillary Clinton's emails. He attacked bad and shameful federal agents. He called Russia and the findings of the Mueller report fake. He did everything that you could possibly think of to do to frustrate and denigrate and obstruct an obstruction of justice inquiry. That's the long and short of it. But it did come with threats. And that is why inherent contempt would have been the correct thing for Nadler to do. So now we ask ourselves, why didn't he do it? I'm going to be really honest with you, and you can, you could disagree with this, but this is what's happening. These are the facts of the lay of the land. And whether or not you agree with one person or another in this fight, that's interesting, but this is what's going on. Nancy Pelosi believes that in 2020, A, we will have a free and fair election. B, she believes Democrats will prevail, and that not only will we maintain our majority in the House, but we will also gain seats in the Senate enough to take a majority in the Senate. She also believes that we will win the presidency. Do you agree? Do you not agree? Doesn't matter. It's what she thinks. It's what she's operating on. And she's a good politician. That is the truth. So she is voicing to the Judiciary Committee, and I don't know if the Intel Committee will also be lectured to now that we have a whistleblower who has information that the Inspector General of the National Security Director, the DNI, has an Inspector General. Every agency has its own Inspector General. Think of it as internal affairs. Okay? The IG, the Inspector General at the DNI, said that this is urgent. It is an urgent matter and Congress must hear it. I don't know if she's going to go along with the defying of a subpoena that the intelligence community issued. We're still talking about judiciary. She is upset. She believes that impeachment will not end well because A, there aren't enough Democratic votes. You need 218 to impeach the president, and that would just be an indictment. And that the Senate, of course, with Mitch McConnell, will, as it's made up now, would never remove him. And that Trump will claim victory in the end. And that will somehow undo our ability to take the presidency, the Senate, and the House. She has sent that message. And so what you saw yesterday was a chairman of a judiciary committee who does not have the full confidence of the House leader in what he is doing. Even though yesterday, Corey Lewandowski admitted, believe it or not, after all of this testimony, I sat there and watched it. After all of this testimony, Corey Lewandowski did admit that he had committed multiple felonies. And Corey Lewandowski is a former police officer. Corey Lewandowski was also charged with battery for grabbing a reporter during the 2016 campaign. And he lied about that until a video emerged to support the allegation. And this was like a Breitbart reporter. Okay, it was a friendly. The authorities called the evidence against Corey Lewandowski legally sufficient, but they dropped the charges anyway, giving Corey the sense that he could get away with shooting somebody on Fifth Avenue, okay? A Trump supporter named Joy Villa, you may have seen her. She wears these really crazy outfits. She filed a sexual assault complaint against Corey Lewandowski in 2017. He's still fighting that and maintains his innocence. He was charged with a misdemeanor in 1999 for bringing a gun into a congressional office building. And last year, he had to settle a dispute with one of his neighbors for threatening his neighbor with a baseball bat. And during the committee hearing yesterday, as he was, as they were on a break in between sessions, not Jeff, in between taking testimony and taking breaks, Corey Lewandowski tweeted out that he is setting up a super PAC for his Senate run in New Hampshire. And so we know that he was using that platform yesterday of the U.S. Congress to ingratiate himself to Donald Trump so that Donald Trump would campaign for him. This was all a political maneuver, even though he was under subpoena and was ordered by Congress to answer the questions. And he refused. That's a felony. The obstruction of justice is a felony. Aiding Donald Trump's obstruction of justice is a felony. And this man does not have a clean record. But the real truth is, Nadler does not have the confidence of the Speaker of the House. She does not approve of this road that he has taken. Because there aren't the votes in the House and because the Senate will surely either not even bother to have a trial, because I don't see anything in the Constitution that says that they must. I see that they are the sole trier of the president, but not that they must try the president upon a presentation of an indictment, also known as an impeachment article. And so here we are with a lawless president, and we're on the brink of war. What do you want to do?
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Here's a quote from the report from Volume 2, pages 49 to 50, which is on the screen. You can read that. Yes or no? Did the president tell you that the Attorney General was legally not allowed to take any part in the special counsel's investigation when he asked you to deliver him a note about that very investigation? Did the president tell you that?
What you've just read is not on the screen, Congresswoman.
You need to look at the screen.
Oh, my God.
There it is. Yes or no? Read the screen.
You're welcome to read it, Congresswoman.
You're welcome to be stalling, and I'm not going to stall. You either answer the question yes or no.
Congressman, I'll take the same privileges that you've had other members.
Tell you that nobody at the White House was supposed to even contact the Attorney General about the investigation? That you can answer yes or no.
I will not disclose any conversations I've had with the president, Congressman.
Had you ever been a secretary for the president before and taken dictation or shorthand?
Many times.
Oh, we got your qualifications now. You were a secretary.
And Mr. Lewandowski, you are about like a fish being cleaned with a spoon. It's very hard to get an answer out of you. But let me, and I'll continue. He said he shouldn't have a special prosecutor counsel because he hasn't done anything wrong. Now, that's what he wanted you to deliver to Attorney General Jeff Sessions, correct?
I believe that's an accurate representation.
And he wanted you to deliver it to Jeff so that Jeff could say it to the people, right?
I believe so.
And you felt kind of squeamish, like that fish that you are trying to be right now, being scaled. You felt a little squeamish about delivering that message, correct?
No, sir.
Well, why did it take you so long and you never even delivered it?
Correct, I never delivered the message.
Yeah, you chickened out.
I went on vacation.
You went on vacation.
Let me ask the question another way. Are you the hit man, the bag man, the lookout, or all of the above?
I think I'm the good-looking man, actually.
You would be wrong.
President Swalwell, I'm very happy of what I've written, but you're welcome to read it if you'd like.
Are you ashamed to read it out loud?
I'm not ashamed of anything in my life, Congressman. Are you?
Then why don't you read the words? So every note that you take of the president, you put in a safe? How big's that safe?
It's a big safe, Congressman. There's a lot of guns in there.
Was that a threat? I would say that was a threat. It's a big safe. I have a lot of guns. He threatens his neighbors with baseball bats. He abuses women. He denies everything all the time until video shows up. Listen, this is a constitutional crisis when you have a private citizen defying Congress in this manner. And I just want you to know that the reason why this miscreant, this slob, this dude who has absolutely no respect for our government, is doing this, it is to diminish Congress. Why? We're on the brink of war here. Mike Pompeo is over in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, declaring that the attack on the Saudi oil fields is a, quote, act of war. An act of war. Who thinks we're going to go to war, and who thinks that Donald Trump is going to even bother going to Congress when Congress has been so diminished yesterday by some snot-nosed little miscreant, some disrespectful, awful, nasty guy. And that's all Lewandowski is, a disrespectful, awful, nasty guy. The meanness, the nastiness, it's all a front because this is, a Trump sycophant who is supine and loyal to another coward, Donald Trump. It's depressing. It's very depressing. I'm telling you, that's what this was about yesterday. And we've got a big issue lying right in front of us about whether or not the intelligence is going to be manipulated in a way that takes us to war yet again. Now, Donald Trump has already shown you that he believes the military are his mercenaries. Donald Trump has already told you that he is staffing out the decision about whether or not to take our soldiers into a war somewhere in this world against Iranian forces, whether it's in Lebanon or Syria or Iran or Iraq, wherever it is, that Donald Trump is going to take us and take our young men and women and put them into a war fighting situation based on the recommendation by a brutal and disgusting regime that beats women, beheads protesters, kills dissidents, dismembered a Washington Post columnist, tortured one of its own family members at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, all at the behest of a 36-year-old snot-nose who somehow, jumped the chain of command and became the king of Saudi Arabia out of order. Jared Kushner apparently had a secret little trip to Saudi Arabia, gave the presidential daily briefing information, 38-year-old kid gave a 36-year-old kid our deepest intelligence information about who was objecting to Mohammed bin Salman, from ascending to, the king's throne. And then Mohammed bin Salman decided, oh, thanks, Jared. You're in my pocket. Great. Now I know who my enemies are. I will torture them. And he did. And he did. One of them he killed to send a message to the others. And they are going to be the sole deciders because the president told you yesterday they pay cash. The Saudis pay cash. We are so far away from a representative democracy. We are so far away from America. We are so far away from any ideas that we were raised with about the honesty and decency and human rights that are the foundation and the pillar of why people want to come here, the shining light on the hill. We are so far away from that. We are in despotism. We are in authoritarianism. We were just in oligarchy before where, big business had purchased our government. We all knew that. They were having their way with every worker. We got 50,000 guys still on strike at GM-wide. You got the president now telling California he doesn't believe in states' rights. Yeah, you have the Federalists saying they don't believe in states' rights. Why? Because California, since the 60s, has had a waiver to allow them, because they had a terrible smog problem. I remember going to high school in California. I don't know how many people realize that I did that. But I went to Culver City High. And I remember that we would have gym class outside, which for a New York girl was like, really? You go outside? We never go outside. We're New Yorkers. But we would have to sit on the grass because ashes were falling from the sky. And the air was it wasn't clean enough to allow the girls to play whatever we were supposed to be playing. New York, it's field hockey and bloomers. California, I think it was tennis or some such thing like this. But I never got to play. Instead, I went to the Apple machine. Oh, California. To the Apple machine to eat an apple while we sat on the lawn. So they got a waiver to figure out a way out of the smog.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844. Congressman, the White House has directed I not disclose the substance of any discussions with the president or his advisors to protect executive branch confidentiality. And I recognize this is not my privilege, but I am respecting the White House's decision.
Let me ask you some questions about your relationship with the president after he assumed office. How many times has the president asked you to meet him in the White House?
The White House has directed not disclose the substance of any discussions.
How many times did you meet with the president alone in the White House in 2017?
I don't know the answer to that.
How many times did he direct you to deliver a message to a member of his cabinet?
The White House has directed not disclose the substance of any discussions with the president.
Did he ever discuss with you any concerns that he may have committed a criminal offense?
The White House has directed not disclose the substance of any discussions with the president or his advisors to protect executive branch confidentiality. I recognize this is not my privilege.
This is not his privilege. It is not the White House's privilege either. The White House can't, exert executive privilege over a campaign private citizen who ran his campaign for a few months. It's ridiculous. And here's another point Corey Lewandowski was very, bold in telling you yesterday that he's testified in front of Congress where he said, I'm not answering your effing questions before, right? And he has testified in front of Congress one time before that. And he's also given testimony to Robert Mueller. Guess what that means? There can be no claim of executive privilege. On top of that, he's not part of the administration. He isn't one of the president's lawful advisors. He has absolutely no privilege that he can exert, nor does the president have one that he can impose on Corey Lewandowski. Therefore, Corey Lewandowski broke the law yesterday. He refused to answer questions after being instructed by subpoena and then again by the chairman of the Judiciary Committee to answer the questions. And he refused to do so. That is a felony. And I'm telling you the reason that Nadler did not invoke, inherent contempt is because Nancy Pelosi doesn't want this impeachment inquiry to proceed. And the reason is because 59% of Americans do not support impeachment of this president. That is what she's looking at. So if you are wondering why Nancy Pelosi is not for impeachment, it's because people in this country, in a plurality, a majority, keep telling pollsters that they don't want to see President Trump impeached. They want to vote him out. And 62% will say that they can't wait to vote him out, but they want to vote him out. 71% of America says they don't believe a word Donald Trump says. They don't rely on him. They don't believe him. They don't think that he's credible in any way, shape, or form. And 62% say that they want to vote him out. 59% say they don't support an impeachment. And that is what she's looking at. So, tell your friends, tell your family, whatever it is, that if a pollster asks, are you for impeachment? Say yes. Because that is why he doesn't have Pelosi's support. And that is why he's acting with less confidence than he would be if he had her support. And I believe yesterday was such a sick example of the disrespect and the diminishment of the powers of Congress, which is as equal to the presidency as any other branch, that it was all meant to belittle Congress, to diminish Congress, so that the president won't even go to them and ask them for an authorization to use military force because Saudi Arabia will pay, and he's an autocrat. And once Donald Trump becomes a wartime president, there is no impeaching him. That's just a fact. The 59% number, see, it's always been around the same. It's always been, around, 13%. But it's always been around the same, right? No, there's never been a majority for impeachment, right? And if he becomes a wartime president, you could forget it. Because the support for him that's on the fence will actually increase. And guess what? Pompeo, who used to be a congressman, and Donald Trump, they all know the politics of it. Corey Lewandowski, who is running for this, this is so sick. But he used Congress yesterday. He used them to get clips of him defending Donald Trump for his Senate run in freaking New Hampshire, where, by the way, every Democratic candidate is right now. Every Democratic candidate, they're all working in New Hampshire, okay? Elizabeth Warren is working in New Hampshire. Bernie Sanders is working in New Hampshire. Kamala Harris is working in New Hampshire. And I'm telling you, the New Hampshire primary is not that far away. Okay, it's February 11th. First we'll have Iowa on February 3rd. Then we'll have New Hampshire on February 11th. And, off to the races we go. We will be in political season. So, I get the frustration. I want this president removed like now. Okay, like now, like before he declares war on Iran, or before he declares war and deploys, more soldiers in Syria or in Lebanon or wherever far-flung place, because his buddies who pay cash, the Saudis, believe this was an act of war, and with all the weapons they buy from us, that's just investment. We don't actually want to defend ourselves. We're only buying your hardware to show that, we spend money with you. But we're not going to actually defend ourselves. You're going to do that for us. You're going to do it. And you know that's right. Martin in California.
Hello?
Hello, Martin.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I wanted to maybe what would help get people on board to call their congressman is my fear that this next election coming up, we're going to have a lot of manipulation of the counting computers by the Russians. They hacked all 50 states so that even if everybody votes Trump out, it's going to come up that he wins. And it may be obvious that it happened, and the states may say it happened, but the way they've been just bulldozing their way through things, I don't think Trump's going to leave. And I think that's something that even maybe Nancy Pelosi's afraid of. And that's why impeachment's important to get more evidence against Trump before the election.
Well, obviously, Donald Trump is obstructing the obstruction that he's already been shown to have committed in 10 different instances in the Mueller report, right? So now he's obstructing the witness testimony. I mean, Corey Lewandowski was the first fact witness that we had, and you can see he's not willing to cop to the facts, right? So I don't understand, for the life of me, why anybody would believe that we're going to have a free and fair election. I just don't. But it can't be close. Look at Israel. Look at what happened last night in Israel. They don't know who won because it's close.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Did you tell the president you were going to deliver the message?
I can't comment on private conversations
sir,
with the
it's
president
on
to preserve
page-
executive privilege.
I'm sorry?
I could read you the exact statement again if you'd like me to. I said the White House has directed that I not disclose the substance of any discussions with the president or his advisors to protect executive branch confidentiality.
You're not going to stonewall me in my questioning. Mr. Chairman, this witness continues to obstruct the work of this committee by refusing to answer questions. He's been ordered to do so by you. I ask that you would judge him in contempt in these proceedings.
Seriously, dude, this man obstructed in front of the entire United States of America, and still the United States of America is not for impeachment. 59% of Americans are against impeachment, and you might wonder why. Well, 31% of the 59% believe that Trump would be in a stronger position if the House impeached him and the Senate didn't remove him. So you have some thinkers out there who are trying to think their way through the decision about whether or not to impeach the president. And there are all different reasons why people are against it. You have a good chunk of people who just want to go and vote him out themselves. They are really anxious to do it. They're enthusiastic about it, and they want the chance. Others think that if we impeached him, and the Senate obviously will not remove, with this particular Senate, with Mitch McConnell, the Grim Reaper, that it will strengthen Donald Trump. So you have a whole bunch of people out there with all different thought processes about whether or not to impeach this president. Mine is this. You want to know what my thinking is? Do the constitutionally correct thing. Protect America, which is a nation of laws, not men. That is why you impeach this president. He has broken the law, at least 10 instances of obstruction of justice, well documented in the Mueller report, meeting all 3 criteria for charging that crime. And Corey Lewandowski yesterday obstructed justice. He should have been hauled out to the Hoosgow to send a very strong message to every other witness that this fake claim of executive privilege does not exist once you have sat down and talked to an investigator, whether it was Mueller or one of his team members, or gave any previous testimony to any entity, you have waived executive privilege. Don McGahn has, Hope Hicks has, Dearborn has. And you know why Dearborn's important? Because what happened with Lewandowski was Donald Trump dictated a note to Lewandowski, told him he wanted to go deliver it to Jeff Sessions, and don't go to DOJ because they keep logs of who goes in and out. Do it on the sly. Do it in an undetectable, untraceable way. Have him over to your offices or go take him out to dinner. Give him this note and tell him to read it to the American people saying the president did nothing wrong. This is a witch hunt. Okay? Lewandowski put it in his safe where he keeps all his guns. And then he called Rick Dearborn and he said, you know, hey, I'm not taking the fall for this putz. You do it. You do it. And that's why Dearborn's testimony is important. But Dearborn did work inside of the White House. He was the chief of staff to Jeff Sessions. Doesn't mean he has executive privilege. He talked to investigators waiving that privilege. Same with Don McGahn, whose name is in the Mueller report hundreds of times. He waived executive privilege. This is all fake. This is all phony. But Nancy is looking at your answers to pollsters about whether or not you support impeachment of this president. 59% of America says they don't for various reasons. That's why this goes on. However, if you'd like to know whether or not Corey Lewandowski ever admitted to committing felonies yesterday, yes, he did. And what's interesting is the media is playing a very short clip of Corey Lewandowski answering questions from a Georgia congressman. Well, there was much more to it. For some strange reason, Karen Bass was able to question Corey Lewandowski without incident. I don't know why he didn't make it personal with her, too, but he sat still and answered her questions.
Mr. Lewandowski, I want to follow up from my colleague here, Mr. Deutsch. It's clear that the president was desperate for you to deliver the message to Sessions. Everyone else had said no, and he went to great lengths to make sure that you'd be effective in delivering it. After the president dictated the message, he told you to tell the Attorney General that he would be the most popular guy in the country if he delivered that message to limit the investigation to the future. Is that correct?
Could you reference me to that in the report, please?
Yes, it's in volume 2, page 92. So is that correct?
I'd like to reference
well,
that.
while you're looking, I'm going to move on. So the president is telling you how to convince Sessions to do it. It's page 92, first paragraph. To tell Sessions that he'd be the most popular guy in the country if he did what the president ordered. And the president picked you for a reason, because he knew that you had the traits of an enforcer and described yourself as his, quote, loyal soldier. This was no exception. Did you find it now?
I have it here, Congresswoman.
Okay, so the Attorney General, that he would be the most popular guy in the country if he delivered that message. Do you see that on page 92?
I do.
So is that correct?
I believe it's accurate.
And you told the president that you understood what he wanted Sessions to do. Is that what you told the special counsel? Same page. And you did understand what the president wanted. He knew not to create a trail. So, looking at the slide, Lewandowski wanted to pass the message to Sessions in person rather than on the phone. Where is that? After you left the Oval Office, you didn't schedule an official meeting with Sessions. Instead, you called the Attorney General at home, correct?
If that's what's in the report.
You told Sessions you wanted to meet in person rather than on the phone. You could have just read the message from the president over the phone, but you knew that it would make it harder to persuade Sessions to do what you wanted. So you wanted to meet with him in person, correct?
If that's what the report states, yes.
Yes.
So the Attorney General works at the Department of Justice, but you told the special counsel that you didn't want to meet in the Department of Justice because you knew that if you went into a government building that there's a public log of the visit, and you specifically told the special counsel that you did not want to, quote, a public log of your visit. Isn't that right?
That's accurate.
Oh.
So why is that? Why didn't you want to leave a paper trail for your visit?
Well, Jeff and I are friends socially, and I want to have the opportunity to have a meal with Jeff and relay the conversation which the president asked me to ask Jeff to consider giving.
There you have it.
So if that was the case, then why was there a problem with you having to do it in secret, essentially? I mean, it was a very important message you were delivering from the president, and it was a message that could certainly be viewed as completely inappropriate, considering that you were not even an employee of the White House. You're a private citizen. You're delivering a message to the Attorney General to limit the investigation. So if you didn't think you were doing anything wrong, then why would it matter that there was a public log?
I want to have the opportunity to speak with Jeff in a more relaxed atmosphere and have a meal with him to have the conversation.
Well, you said that another reason for not meeting at the DOJ was because you, quote, did not want Sessions to have an advantage over you by meeting on Sessions' turf. Is that right? Huh.
That's right. I want to have a private conversation in a more relaxed atmosphere.
So, again, if this was an appropriate message to deliver, and if it was just about that, why would it matter whose turf it was on? Why couldn't you go to his office? You're his friend. Why couldn't you go to his office and meet with him there?
I suppose I could have, but I chose to I wanted to have a discussion with Jeff, as we have had so many occasions before that.
Exactly. I mean, I believe...
Never inside the Department of Justice.
I believe that Sessions knew that it was wrong, and that Sessions canceled his meeting with you. If you guys were good friends, why would he have bothered to cancel it? Did he call you up to reschedule it?
That'd be a question for Jeff Sessions.
Well, after you testified, and you testified earlier that after the inauguration, you didn't communicate with the Attorney General often, you're a good friend that you have dinner with. So when you said that you had a message to deliver, isn't it fair to say that Sessions knew you were calling on behalf of the president and that that message was from him?
I have no idea what was in Jeff Sessions' mind.
To be clear, the Attorney General knew it was a message from the president, and he still refused to meet with you. Mr. Lewandowski, it's clear to me that Sessions knew what we all know sitting here today, that what you were doing was wrong. He wanted nothing to do with your secret messages because he knew it was entirely improper for a private citizen to go behind the backs of the White House counsel and secretly meet with him somewhere without any record of your meeting on your turf to try to persuade the Attorney General to protect the president from investigation into his own misconduct. Well, you know, you can't protect him anymore. And I'm glad that this misconduct can finally be brought to public attention so that the president can be held accountable.
The gentlelady's time has expired.
Very well done, Karen Bass. Very well done. She got him to admit everything. So, while Corey Lewandowski thought he was being smug and contemptuous and snide and nasty and diminishing and calling people names and threatening Swalwell, I got a closet full of guns, Karen Bass systematically and for some strange reason was very able to get Corey Lewandowski to admit that he attempted to obstruct justice at the behest of the president. And you know what makes this real, Frank? Pentangeli like real Godfathery? The White House counsel is sitting behind Corey Lewandowski. Why would that have happened? I don't know.
Mary had a little lamb.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe it.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Mr. Lewandowski, I'm going to put a slide up, and it's the words that President Trump dictated to you on July 19. Can you read what you wrote down?
I'm happy to have you read it, Congressman.
Well, why don't you want to read it, Mr. Lewandowski?
I think you should afford me the same privilege you afforded Director Mueller.
Would you like to read it?
No, you're welcome to read it.
Are you ashamed of the words that you wrote down?
President Swalwell, I'm very happy of what I've written, but you're welcome to read it if you'd like.
Are you ashamed to read it out loud?
I'm not ashamed of anything in my life, Congressman. Are you?
Then why don't you read the words?
Congressman, I've asked and answered your
Mr.
question.
Lewandowski, why won't you read the words aloud?
I've asked and answered your question, Congressman. If you'd like to read the words, you're welcome to.
Well, you were ashamed to read them out loud, and you didn't deliver those words to the person the president asked you to. Did you have a consciousness of guilt?
I have nothing to be guilty of, Congressman. Thank you.
You still feel guilty today, and that's why you can't read it out loud?
Congressman, you're welcome to read the words if you'd like.
Well, I just wonder why you can't.
I have the capacity to, Congressman. I'll give you the privilege.
You said the president did nothing wrong. Why can't you read those words right now? Why can't you read them aloud?
Congressman, tell me why you hold me to a different standard than the previous witnesses who sat here.
I want to give you one more opportunity to clear up something you said earlier. You've said a number of times it was in the Mueller report, it was accurate, except as it relates to you stating that this was the only time the president ever asked you to write something down. Are you saying that that part's not accurate? I'd ask to stop the clock while he confers with his lawyer.
It's the White House lawyer.
The clock will be stopped for 5 seconds.
Could I see the page and reference number on that, Congressman?
Oh,
sure,
my God.
It's page 91, lines 7 and 8. I will read it to you. This was the first time the president had asked Lewandowski to take dictation. Are you saying that that is not accurate?
I'm saying those aren't my words, Congressman.
I'm asking you, was that the first time the president asked you to take dictation?
And I've testified it's not the first time.
So this part would be inaccurate.
I'm saying I've taken dictation by the candidate and the president in the past.
Have you ever put any words that the president asked you to write down before in a safe? Or was this the first time you'd done that?
I believe it's my standard operating procedure when taking notes, Congressman.
So every note that you take of the president, you put in a safe? How big is that safe?
It's a big safe, Congressman. There's a lot of guns in there.
That's a threat. This man, whether or not Congress holds him in inherent contempt, this man is guilty of obstruction of justice, aiding in obstruction of justice by taking the note from the president and calling Rick Dearborn and asking Rick Dearborn to deliver it to Jeff Sessions because Lewandowski was smart enough to know that if he delivered it to Jeff Sessions, even though he attempted to make arrangements to deliver that speech that the president wanted Jeff Sessions to give, he took steps to do that. That's what we got from Karen Bass's questioning, that he was not going to go to DOJ because they kept a log of visitors, that he wanted to have no trail of his meeting with Jeff Sessions. He admitted that to Karen Bass. So he took the steps to obstruct justice to get Jeff Sessions to then tell Robert Mueller to limit his investigation into future Russian interference in our elections instead of the counterintelligence investigation that he was doing based on the 2016 Russian interference in our elections. So he took steps, and that's all you need. And so Corey Lewandowski, while everybody was scratching their head and other various body parts, including me yesterday, going, why no inherent contempt? Look, there are three kinds of contempt. I will review them very quickly for you again. Civil contempt. You go to the court, you go to a judge, and you ask a judge to enforce your subpoena. That takes time. It will be appealed. It will go to the next level of the court and the next until it gets to the Supreme Court to decide whether the president can invoke executive privilege over people who have already waived it. Ex post facto, right? Already waived it and given interviews to the special prosecutor, Bob Mueller, which is how the Congress members yesterday have Corey Lewandowski's note. It's how they have his testimony. He gave it. He waived his privilege. So that takes a long time. Then you've got your criminal contempt. Criminal contempt sounds really good. I always like the sound of that. Except here's what would happen. The U.S. attorney would be called by the member of Congress who wanted to file a criminal contempt charge against Corey Lewandowski. That U.S. attorney would then seek to convene a grand jury to issue an indictment of Corey Lewandowski after the U.S. attorney was able to present the facts of the case to a secret grand jury. Now, Bill Barr would have total say over that U.S. attorney's activities and could stop that U.S. attorney from even convening a grand jury. So that's a dead end. And then you've got inherent contempt. That is this is the one kind of contempt that Congress can do on its own. Doesn't need the judiciary branch, doesn't need to go to a court, doesn't need to go to the executive branch, doesn't have to go to a U.S. attorney, and therefore Bill Barr is not involved. Congress can do it by itself. That would require Nadler picking up a phone, calling the sergeant at arms, taking Corey Lewandowski away, charging him with inherent contempt of Congress for refusing to answer the questions, for invoking privileges that he doesn't have, which is why he's so careful to say it's not even my privilege. I'm just respecting what okay? And also admitting to felonies, which is what he did when Karen Bass questioned him. He admitted to committing felonies, felony obstruction of justice, okay? And so the only thing left is for Corey to be arrested by somebody outside of Congress. Now you're back into DOJ, and that will never happen. And if Corey was arrested by the Sergeant at Arms, guess who could pardon him? Yeah. So this is where we're at, and that is why it's a constitutional crisis. You get it? You see it? This is bigger than Corey Lewandowski. This is bigger than some smug, nasty little punk. This is a complete shredding of the United States Constitution. And we're standing here with the Secretary of State and maybe even, I don't know, what is he, the National Security Advisor too? He's Henry Kissinger, everybody. He's Henry Kissinger, Mike Pompeo is. And we are standing here while he's on foreign soil declaring that Saudi Arabia was attacked in an act of war, which requires some response. But we weren't attacked. No U.S. soldier was attacked. No U.S. interest was attacked. No U.S. ally was attacked. Saudi Arabia is not a U.S. ally. Only Donald Trump thinks they are because they pay cash. Do you see how much trouble we are in? And yes, we must get rid of this president. But no, America has not congealed around this freaking idea. And therein lies a constitutional crisis. 59% of America does not want to see an impeachment inquiry, an impeachment process go. They don't want to see Donald Trump impeached because, like I said, 31% of that 59% think that Donald Trump would come out smelling like a rose when Mitch McConnell refused to either try him or when the Senate fails to convict him with 2/3 Senate majority. And that's what it takes to remove. Plus, no president has ever been removed. I think the more we see snot-nosed little nasty, unpatriotic people shred the Constitution and admit to felonies under oath the way we saw yesterday, the better off America is come election time. Why? Because it cannot be close. If it's close, we will never know what the true result is. Look at Israel. You tell me, when will they have a result? Won't be today, won't be tomorrow, won't be the day after.
All things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Your behavior in this hearing room has been completely unacceptable. And it is part of a pattern by a White House desperate for the American people not to hear the truth.
Yep.
I have been asked several times today whether the committee will hold you in contempt. That is certainly under consideration. But there is a far more troubling level of contempt on display here today, and that is President Trump's role in your refusal to answer questions. The pattern of obstruction laid out in the Mueller report has not stopped. You showed the American public in real time that the Trump administration will do anything and everything in its power to obstruct the work of the Congress. The president's lawyers are sitting behind you right now to make sure that you do not answer us.
That's creepy.
Well, this committee is focused on the evidence of potential corruption, obstruction, and abuse of power. And exposing that misconduct is our top priority. Make no mistake, we will hold President Trump accountable.
On a parliamentary inquiry?
Gentleman will state his parliamentary inquiry.
Mr. Chairman, did you have that little speech prepared before this hearing went downhill?
It is not a proper parliamentary inquiry, and the answer is no. Pursuant to the resolution for investigative procedures adopted by this committee last week, and pursuant to notice, we will now proceed to staff questioning.
Mr. Chairman,
the majority has designated Barry Burke to conduct its questioning.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. Clause 2J. Mr. Chairman.
The gentleman will state his point of order.
Clause 2J, 2C of Rule 11 permits up to 1 hour of questioning by staff of this committee. This gentleman is a private
You're talking
consultant.
too fast. I can't understand you.
Really, Doug Collins, you are a nutbag. No one can understand you with your little colloquialisms and your little southern twang there. Nobody knows what the hell you're talking about. However, what that was leading to, and I could play you that whole contretemps, but it's easier to explain it. So the Democrats had decided in their impeachment procedures, which I told you they passed. That's why they needed to do this, setting the rules for the impeachment inquiry, right? And so in those rules, everybody that passed this particular piece of legislation, the particular rule in the House that would guide the impeachment inquiry by a majority vote, said you could have outside lawyers come in, just like, I don't know, another guy who needs to be impeached, Kavanaugh did. Remember, they got an attorney from a law firm somewhere in Texas to come in and question Kavanaugh about his sexual peccadillos and his raping, because the white men in the Senate Republicans didn't want to be seen questioning Christy Blasey Ford. So they brought in a woman prosecutor to come in and... So the House adopted a similar rule that said that an outside staff counsel could come in and question Corey Lewandowski. It passed. It is the rule of the House now. And idiot boy Doug Collins, who is, he's such a miscreant. And so is Matt Getz. That's the one that said, parliamentary inquiry. Did you have that speech prepared before he testified? No, I didn't. I wrote it during the break because this man is making a sham out of the United States House of Representatives, the People's House. He is literally lifting his leg on it. And I won't have it. Okay? But Doug Collins was told that they were going to bring in a staff counsel. Doug Collins did not want that to happen, but he was outvoted. And then when it was time for the staff counsel to appear, they asked Doug Collins, who did he designate for the Republican side to come and question Corey Lewandowski? And guess what? Nobody.
The committee will reconvene. Without objection, the minority will designate the staff member to conduct this questioning during the allotted time for staff.
Mr. Chairman,
The staff member.
Mr. Chairman, after deliberation and looking at this, I cannot go along with the chairman's sham and the majority sham in this hearing and designating a staff member. We have said all along this is not an impeachment inquiry. This is not something that should have happened to start with. I refuse to go along with the chairman's faux impeachment process. So we are at this point.
Keep going.
So we're not going to designate. We'll continue to litigate this on other fronts. But, Mr. Chairman, you have made a shame of this committee today.
Mr. Chairman. Very well. Nobody's going to question Corey Lewandowski for the Republicans. Nobody. That's what he chose. That's what he chose. And we chose somebody. Barry Burke, an outside lawyer, who we brought in to question Corey Lewandowski. And I got to say, went pretty well for him.
That was you saying on MSNBC, you don't ever remember the president ever asking you to get involved with Jeff Sessions or the Department of Justice in any way, shape, or form. That wasn't true, was it, sir?
I heard that.
And that was not true, was it?
I have no obligation to be honest with the media because they're just as dishonest as anybody else.
So you're admitting, sir, you were not being truthful in that clip, correct?
My interview with Ari Melberg?
Yes.
Can be interpreted any way you'd like.
Would you like me to play it again?
You're welcome to, please.
Play it one more time.
I don't ever remember the president ever asking me to get involved with Jeff Sessions or the Department of Justice in any way, shape, or form ever.
And, sir, it is true in May 2019. You absolutely remembered when the president asked you to deliver a message to the attorney general of a speech for him to give related to the special counsel investigation. Isn't that correct?
I'd have to think about it.
Are you claiming, sir, that, and you had been interviewed by the special counsel about those very events in which you discussed and you said was accurately reported in the report a year earlier. Right. Are you saying, sir, you may have forgotten it by the time you were interviewed just before the report was publicly released?
I'm saying my memory was clearly much fresher when I actually gave the interview with the special counsel's report.
Sir, is it your testimony before this committee that when you said you did not remember the president ever asking you to get involved with Jeff Sessions or the Department of Justice, you were saying you were being truthful?
He has to ask his lawyer.
And, sir, I don't believe there's any reason to consult with your counsel. The question is, are you a truth teller in that interview?
I'm a truth teller every time I stand before Congress or a committee of jurisdiction and raise my hand and swear to God under oath.
Yes, but every other time, in all my other dealings in life with, women, with people I've molested, with my neighbors who I took a baseball bat to, with, I lie. I'm a liar. It's what I am. I'm a freaking liar. And then for some strange reason, CNN decided that they would have Allison Camerata go ahead and interview Corey Lewandowski this morning. And it was, the only reason why I want to show you this, some people ask me, why don't I interview conservatives? And I tell you all the time, because they lie. They lie, they cheat, they steal, they obstruct, they make a mess, they twist your words, they're name callers, they're disrespectful of your time, they're disrespectful of your intellect, and they just, hurl insults and curse words, and they say nothing. And they waste your time. And so there is absolutely no reason to debate a liar, somebody who can't help themselves, but to call you an effing this or a, son of a what, or a, there's just no reason to waste your precious time with them. And this morning was no exception. Poor Allison Camerata. Somebody assigned her the duty, the task to interview this miscreant. And he was so nasty and rude that you really would hope to God that if we go to war for Saudi Arabia, okay, because we're becoming more like them than they are like us, that our vice and virtue police would follow him around and beat him.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randy, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
This is why you don't interview conservatives.
Okay, so Corey, just to be clear, you only feel the obligation to tell the truth when you're under oath.
Which is clearly more than some of your contributors. As you know, Andy McCabe, who has a criminal referral, who's a CNN contributor, was not accurate under oath. He has a criminal referral for lying to the FBI, to lying to the Inspector General on 3 separate occasions. But Allison, you and your network continue to use him as a contributor who has been lying under oath. And so if you're going to hold me to a standard, hold your same employees and contributors to that same standard. I have no criminal referrals. Question. Allison, excuse me. Excuse me.
Corey.
I should be held. I'll be happy to answer your question, and I'll be held to the same standard as the employees and contributors to CNN, which means when I am under oath, I will tell the truth. That can't be said the truth as James Comey or Andrew McCabe, who's employed by CNN.
Great. Corey, we are happy to have lots of other segments about that. But I'm talking about you.
Let's talk about that segment.
Corey, I'm talking about you.
Right,
you
and I'm
only
talking
feel
about your
obligated
network.
to tell the truth when you're under oath.
No, what I said was I never lie under oath, unlike your contributors.
No. What you said is
did.
I have no obligation to have a candid conversation with the media whatsoever. So you lie to the media.
Your contributors lied to the FBI.
Corey, I'm
Your
asking
contributors
about
have
you.
criminal referrals, and you continue to employ these people, Allison. He was
Corey.
the former deputy director of the FBI, and Inspector
Corey,
General
I understand the
Horowitz.
deflection. I get it. I
Inspector
understand that you don't
General
want to answer
Horowitz
this.
has
but I think that
referred
this is
him for
important,
criminal
Corey.
referral for
Corey,
lying under
I get
oath.
it.
We call that perjury.
Right. Corey,
and
and
you
I know-
continue to employ him.
Hey, Corey.
How can you justify that,
Hey,
Allison?
Corey.
How
I know
can you
what you
justify
do.
continuing
Hey,
to
Corey, you
employ
need to let me
someone
get a question in.
who's been accused of perjury?
Corey, if you want to ask the questions, you can become a journalist yourself.
Well, are you a journalist or are you not? I mean, is that what you are?
God.
Are you a
Hey,
journalist
Corey, listen.
or you're a
Let me
talking
tell you
head?
something.
Which one? Because
Corey,
I'm happy to answer your
hey,
questions
Corey,
if they're
you're
honest
not
and truthful.
You're listening with your mouth. And what I want you to listen to is, this is important. Do you lie
I've
to
answered
the
your
media?
question, Allison.
What is the answer, yes or no?
I've answered your question.
Yes or no?
I'm as honest as I can be, as often as I can be.
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Which part of that don't you understand?
When you lie, Corey, when do you lie? Are you lying now, for instance?
I'm as honest as I can be with you, Allison.
Corey, that's not good enough.
No.
That's
Allison?
not good enough.
No, not even close. Okay, so this man who wants to be your senator from New Hampshire, if you're listening, he admits that he only lies when he's under oath. Can I resubmit my idea for the masses? Okay, whether you agree with me, and you don't have to agree with me to be with me, but whether you agree with me or you don't agree with me, here's my suggestion. Anybody that is using their office, whether they're a member of Congress, a senator, a president, an agency head of the DNI, the NSA, the vice president of the United States, the EPA, the whatever. If you are speaking as the voice of your office, using your office to make or state a claim to the American people, you are under oath. Don't you think that would solve a lot of the problems that we have right now about who is and isn't telling the truth? Of course, if it goes down the authoritarian road, it really doesn't matter, no matter what law you pass. Why? Because he'll pardon you. Lee in Tucson. Ed in California.
Hi, Randy.
Hi, Ed.
This is my first time.
Oh.
I'm a new watcher. Anyway, I have two solutions for a lot of the problems in this country. Get more states to pass, move to amend, get the corporations out of our government. And the other one is uphold the oath of office for all elected employees and appointed staff.
Well, what does that mean?
When I was in the Army, I took an oath to defend the country.
Yeah, I did too in the
laws,
Air Force, but
right.
that's you know.
But if you'd have got caught breaking that oath,
yeah,
you either had a dishonorable discharge or you'd been in a stockade, right?
Well, that's different. I mean, when you sign those papers, you surrender your civil rights. So I don't know, you know.
But when they raise their hand and promise the American people to defend the Constitution of the United States.
Right, but
and
here's
then
what
they just go totally against it.
Right. I mean, in principle, of course, I agree with you. I mean, there's just the problem is with the oath thing is there is no remedy in law. So if you break your oath in the military, there's the U.S. There's the U.S. What do they call it? I just spaced out. The military code of justice, right?
Right.
Uniform military code of justice.
Right.
So, but there is nothing like that for a president. There is no uniform military code of justice. The only way to hold the president accountable is through impeachment and removal in the Senate. So,
I'm talking about the senators and the congressmen.
The only way to remove them is through an election or impeachment. Same with the Supreme Court, right? I mean, you've got two molesters on the Supreme Court, right? They have dishonored their offices. I mean, Clarence Thomas is one of them, and then Kavanaugh also needs to be impeached. But there's no way to go about this other than impeachment and removal. That's it. That's all that's in the Constitution. The UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, that's a whole different book, right? That's a whole different set of laws that applies to military members because we surrender our civil rights and say we're not going to be tried under civilian law. We have a special law book for us.
So then why even have them take the oath?
Right. I mean, it's kind of meaningless. It's sort of a traditional thing. But if you wanted to say that a president broke his oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, in order to indict him and remove him on those charges, you'd have to go through the same process we're going through right this second.
Well, wouldn't it be easier if we held all our other elected officials to that code? We could pass a law to make it that way.
No, we'd have to change the Constitution to make it that way.
So let's change the Constitution. We're going to move to amend.
So that's what, I mean, look, there are dangers in having a constitutional convention because, you could have 2/3 of the state vote to make the president the king, and in this environment, who knows? Who knows what could happen, right? But to get rid of the Electoral College, to change the laws for removal of a president or removal of a House member or removal of a senator or removal of a Supreme Court justice, we would have to literally amend the Constitution. We would have to change it. And I just don't think, A, you get, 2/3 of the House, B, 2/3 of the Senate, and 2/3 of the states. To do this, I wish they would.
Well,
but a simpler way would be to require that if you are speaking as the President of the United States, as a Congress member, as a senator, that if you are using your office, you are under oath. That way, impeachment is clear. The need for it would be clear, not some nebulous oath breaking, right? It would be straight perjury, and you could charge them with perjury. Of course, a president could pardon anybody. That's the problem.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
In all the chatter about today's theatrics and silliness, don't lose sight of the fact that a witness today confirmed under oath that POTUS committed an act that met all three elements of the federal crime of obstruction of justice. Obstruction, nexus, intent. What do you say to that?
So he's right. And if this was not the President of the United States we were talking about, he'd have been indicted on many different felony counts. I firmly believe that. I don't even think that's a close call.
It isn't. And that's what should not get lost in yesterday's crap show. Okay, in yesterday's obstruction and stonewalling and nastiness and threatening, and I got a safe full of guns, then admits he's a liar, and then finally confesses to Karen Bass that, yeah, he participated and aided in at least one count of obstruction of justice that the president actually committed. Yeah, Corey Lewandowski admitted to multiple felonies yesterday, and he indicted the president. He did. He actually put the president at the time and place with the motive and the actual steps that the president took in at least one attempt at obstruction of justice. And the obstruction was to get rid of Mueller and to get the Attorney General of the United States to give a false speech to the American people. Now, I mean, that's just a fact. So we have the president dead to rights. We have him as an obstructor of justice 10 separate times in the Mueller report. Corey Lewandowski literally aided and abetted in that obstruction of justice. These people need to go to jail. Why Corey Lewandowski doesn't get indicted, why Corey Lewandowski wasn't hauled off yesterday, is because Congress doesn't want to be the one that does it. Okay? Because they don't want any whiff of politics in the arrest and the indictment and the trial of Corey Lewandowski. But Corey Lewandowski totally admitted yesterday that he aided and abetted the President of the United States in an obstruction of justice. Period. That he lied to the media about it to cover it up. Okay? So you have him. Just like you have Michael Cohen, and Michael Cohen is sitting in Otisville. Now the president, okay, we have this rule, not a law, a rule at the OLC that says you can't indict a sitting president. That right there needs to be thrown out the window, because I think everybody now sees that a president could literally use the military as mercenaries to enrich himself. Yeah, he could actually instruct the Air Force to fork over their per diem to stay at his golf course in Scotland, Turnberry. He could instruct people to commit obstruction of justice or break the law and turn around and pardon them. Dangle pardons in front of them for not cooperating. And we can't indict them. That's a problem. It's a problem for a nation that thinks that it's a nation of laws, not men. And that's what we say we are. And if that's what we are, then we need to proceed. Chris in Chicago.
Yes, hi. Thank you for taking my call. I was frankly kind of horrified when I saw Corey Lewandowski back on the TV again, because I thought for sure that the media would rise up for once and say, this guy is bad news. We're being colored. If we pay him to give his opinion on TV again.
Well, they didn't pay him. He was a guest.
Oh, they don't? Okay. I thought that all these media appearances, that these people get paid for it. Okay. No. But still, I mean, there's a credibility thing. If he's admitted to God and everybody that he gets up and lies to the media, how can he have any credibility?
Because, Chris, on TV, if it bleeds, it leads. On TV, if people are morbid, okay? It's just a fact of life. Everyone who's listening to me now, if they're honest with themselves, will look at a car wreck. They want to see a dead body. Everybody wants to see something that is just disgusting on TV. This is why people watch Donald Trump. This is why Howard sits there and watches that man do the most ridiculous rallies based on absolutely false things that only happen in that man's head and conduct the presidency like a reality TV show. I mean, what is more obscene? The president at his rallies or Sean Spicer in a lime green shirt dancing with a woman who is wearing pineapples on her breasts?
I didn't even look at that. I couldn't even stand that.
Oh, no. Everybody saw it. So, Sean Spicer puts on a lime green shirt and dances with a woman who's got 2 pineapples in place of her boobage. And they're dancing badly. And America watches because we're morbid. We're morbid SOBs, okay? It's a fact of life. That's why they book these people on these shows. I refuse to waste my time in this manner. Therefore, I don't get the kind of viewership that, Dancing with the Stars gets. It's just a fact. But I just refuse to be used that way, no matter what the price. But very few people have integrity like that. And they will invite the conservatives on their show to argue with them, just for your entertainment, for sport. And I just won't do it. Phil in Sun City.
Hi, Randy. You still a goddess.
Yes.
Randy, I got 2 points.
Oh, I do too. But there's no pineapples on them.
Yes. Well, you get what you got.
Yeah.
Anyway, Saudi Arabia has got the 3rd largest military budget in the world. They don't need our help.
No.
Their toys are newer and shinier than ours. Let them go dent their stuff up.
Yes, go soil your stuff. Yes, go deplete your bombing. I mean, it's ridiculous. First of all, this is only happening because Saudi Arabia has caused one of the worst human catastrophes on this planet right now. They have been mercilessly bombing Yemen since 2015, okay? It's almost 2020. 12 million people in that little country just south of Saudi are starving to death. Women, children, men, literally stick figures starving to death because of...
But who's doing... who?
Okay, so the Houthi rebels are the ones that are trying to take over Yemen and stop the starving, and they are backed by the Iranians. The Saudis are fighting the Iranian-backed Houthi rebels by bombing the crap out of Yemen so that 12 million people in that little tiny country are literally starving to death. This is what they built of it. So, if they want to have a religious war, they want to say that there's a big difference between Shia and Sunni. It's like us saying, there's a huge difference between Episcopalian and, Lutheran. That's how minute this religious disagreement is. But it's a religious war. Let them have it. They want to do it. Let them do it.
And they have the toys.
They got all the toys.
Can I make my other point?
Sure.
My other point is with regard to impeachment.
Yeah.
I want an impeachment to go through because I want them to put their names on it. Those people that stand with this insult to America, I want their names to be part of the congressional record. So
I do too.
From now through all of the future, we can tell people who these people are and who they're affiliated with and what they do. We got to pay attention to Maya Angelou. We got to.
When they show you who they are, believe them. Is that what you're saying? I think we got disconnected. Let me just give you the numbers, okay? In the House of Representatives, we need to impeach the president 218 votes. You know how many we have? 130. This is why there is no support from Nancy Pelosi for impeachment. You have 2 things happening simultaneously. One is polling of us, the citizenry. And I told you, 59% of America does not want to see this man impeached, and everyone's got different reasons. 13%, just so you know, 13% believe he didn't do anything wrong. 13% believe he didn't do anything wrong, which means everyone else believes he did, okay? So what is the deal? Well, 31%, which is about half of the 59, don't want him impeached because they know Mitch McConnell will roll over and that all the Republican senators will roll over, right? And they will not remove this man. And so they think that Trump would benefit from that scenario. Okay? Then there are other people out there that really want to see healthcare discussed and fixed. They know the House passed a healthcare bill. They know that Trump is in court trying to dismantle the ACA. You've got people who are like 89% of the American people want background checks on guns. They know the Senate is the one, Mitch McConnell is the one that is standing in the way of common sense background check. So they would like to see, and they don't think that Congress can walk and chew gum at the same time. So, and that is the polling. And then there's the head count, the actual members. We need 218. We only have 130. That's the reason why there's no support for arresting Corey Lewandowski for invoking inherent contempt. It's just the truth. I'm not saying I'm down with that plan. I'm not. The law is the law.
Mary, how does the program?
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe it. Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Story from Washington this morning where a promise that President Trump made to a foreign leader is reportedly the subject of a whistleblower complaint. That's according to the Washington Post. It's unclear what the promise was, and the foreign leader has not been revealed, but the complaint has been deemed credible and urgent by the Inspector General for the intelligence community. Despite the concern, the Director of National Intelligence has refused to turn over the complaint to the House Intelligence Committee, which Democrats say violates the law. The director is set to testify before the committee next week.
It is a lawless administration, isn't it, everybody? And it's like the law, you just sit there and hope that the law prevails. The law will hold. America can keep their crap together. All right, we're going to get into all of this. Also, the Democrats are working on a prescription drug plan. It will go nowhere in the Senate. Chuck Schumer took over the Senate floor on Tuesday night, and they, for 5 hours, tried to shame Really? Mitch McConnell into taking some action on background checks. I'll play you, Chuck Schumer's rousing call to action that he made on the Senate floor, everybody. I mean, I'll give you a heads up. He talked about guns as if they were like emotional support, utensils. You know what I mean? Like your dog or your parrot. I have seen people on airplanes with all kinds of weird animals saying they're emotional support. Wait until the gun becomes the emotional support tool. Wait, we'll all be on board and people will have AKs strapped on their back and in their back. Oh my God, it's just so unbelievable. But I have to tell you, today is a very, 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 very good day to support Free Speech TV. Know why? Because the people in Denver who work really hard, they work their tails off, they work their fannies off, have put together a new group of backers who will match your pledge today. So if you give $5 today, it's $10. If you give $1,000 today, it's $2,000. If you gave $5,000 today, it would be $10,000, and they will match this up to $12,000. And so today is a great day to go to freespeech.org/donate or just freespeech.org. Click on donate or dial the phone, everybody. The operators are standing by right now to take your call from Randi Rhodes listeners, 877-378-8669. Remember, it's a match day. Whatever you do, we'll match it. I won't. They will. It's just amazing how they do this. Up to $12,000. 877-378-8669. All right. Let's go deep, shall we? You don't have to. This story is very easily understood. Here's what happened. You have somebody who works inside the intelligence community who witnessed something that was credible and was deemed an urgent concern for the safety and security of the United States of America. And apparently, this person who witnessed, and we don't know if it was on the phone, because, you got populated phone calls. I told you, when I speak to a member of Congress or when anybody's doing an interview with any member of Congress, which is partially why it's not my favorite thing to do, you are not alone on the phone. Okay, never. You are never alone on the phone with a member of Congress, a senator, a vice president, a president. You're never alone on the phone, okay? No matter what you think is going on as the interview is being conducted, there is staff on the phone, either a legislative assistant, a communications director, a subordinate of the communications director. Those phone calls are extremely populated, okay? And the same goes for, we think, it's always been, but we don't know what is now, because you got a guy who lies about the freaking weather, who denigrates the intelligence community by standing on a stage in Helsinki next to Vlad and saying, the intelligence community, Dan Coates told me that they did, but I don't see why he would have done it. So, Mr. President, are you saying that you don't believe your intelligence agency? You believe Vladimir Putin? Well, he denied it very strongly in front of the world, okay, denigrating the intelligence community. And prior to that, he called the intelligence community a bunch of Nazis, saying that they wiretapped him, which was proven completely and utterly false. And then after he was elected, after he fired James Comey, he had the Sergeys, the Lavrov, right, Sergeys. He had them in the Oval Office, and he told them a bit of Israeli intelligence that was given to us on a, trust basis. And of course, the president can declassify any damn thing he wants to. So it's not like he violated the law. He violated the trust of our allies in the world. In Syria, okay, we had intelligence operators who collected some intelligence about war fighting in Syria. And we are not on the same side as Russia, as you know, in Syria. Russia gassed people there. We are fighting against ISIS and trying to clean out ISIS there. In Raqqa, Aleppo. We've had people run for president like him. What's Aleppo? What is Aleppo? Okay? He gets intel from our collectors, from our covert operators, and he passes it on to people who are on the other side of a conflict in Syria. Told Sergei Kislyak and Sergei Lavrov in the Oval Office. This alarmed the intelligence community in the first place. So we know that he isn't trusted and can't be trusted with intel. And the reason why that's important is because our allies won't give it to us since we can't safeguard it. So we're flying blind. Well, one of our intel people, we don't know what rank he was. We don't know if he was a detailee, as they call it. We don't know if he was a covert operator. We don't know if he's a monitor. We don't know what he is, okay? We don't know if it's a he. We don't know if it's a she. Had witnessed somewhere along the line the President of the United States making a promise to a foreign leader, we don't know who, that he found very alarming and a detriment to the national security of these United States. And so following the procedure, which is proscribed by the intelligence, community, he did by the book what he was supposed to do. See, intelligence people can't go to the head of the intelligence agency because it might put them in jeopardy if the head of the intelligence agency is, a lackey of the president. Now, the head of the intelligence of the DNI, of the Director of National Intelligence, or the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, ODNI, you might hear that, is a guy who was third choice. We're down to the C list here, okay? Because Dan Coates resigned. Remember Dan Coates, who was completely sandbagged when Andrea Mitchell was on the TV with him, and all of a sudden it was announced without, Dan Coates, the DNI, knowing that Vladimir Putin was planning a trip to come to the United States, which, by the way, never happened. But he was completely sandbagged. He went, okay, right. So Dan Coates finally had enough, and he resigned. We need more of this. So Dan Coates resigned. Now, he was a lobbyist, by the way, Dan Coates. All of Trump's cabinet people are basically lobbyists for whatever industry they're overseeing now. They're lobbyists. That's what he did. That's how he drains the swamp, by hiring the creatures from the Black Lagoon. All right. So he asked a guy named John Ratcliffe. Remember John Ratcliffe, who auditioned for the job of DNI in a hearing the other day, and he was screaming and yelling and defending the president. Yeah, and it turns out that Ratcliffe didn't even meet the statutory requirements to be the DNI, because apparently the United States of America requires that if you're going to be the director of national intelligence, you apparently need to have some national intelligence experience, which Dan Ratcliffe did not have. So statutorily, they could not confirm him. Okay? Even the Republicans, they couldn't squeeze him through. So we ended up with this dude, this guy, Joe McGuire. Joe McGuire, everybody. Show me the money! Joe McGuire. So this operative could not go to Joe McGuire. He couldn't. He knew what the rules were. So he went to the Inspector General, which is what's required. The Inspector General reviewed his complaint and found that it was of urgent concern and credible. Notified Joe McGuire, you now have to report this to Congress statutorily, by law. You got 7 days. You got to give it to Adam Schiff, the chairman of the Intel Committee. And Tuesday was the deadline, and guess what? He says, not going to do it. No.
All things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Well, this whistleblower complaint comes in the early part of August. And if you look through the White House records, Trump had interactions with about 4 or 5 foreign leaders in the weeks leading up to this complaint. Perhaps the most relevant one is a late July, end of July conversation with Vladimir Putin, in which the White House readout was very different from the Russian readout afterward, which the Russian government indicated they saw some sort of progress toward restoring bilateral relations between the two countries. But there were others, too. He was also interacting with the North Korean leader, with the Prime Minister of Pakistan, and a couple of others. But I think that it's safe to say that the speculation is going to center on Putin and on Kim Jong-un.
I mean, it's speculation, obviously, and we, should respect this intelligence operator who thought that the national security of the United States was in such jeopardy that he actually went through the procedures that are laid out in the IC, the intelligence community. It's a community, everybody, and went to the Inspector General. The Inspector General actually said, yes, this is a credible threat to the United States of America. It is of urgent concern. And then instructed the Director of National Intelligence, who's a C-lister now, right? He's he's just a guy randomly picked somewhere because Trump cannot get anybody to work for him. And so we're down to like the Z list of people. And this guy was instructed, he says, by the White House not to give the report to Adam Schiff, the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, even though it has been deemed a credible, urgent threat to the United States. Now, why does it matter that the intelligence community is yelling as loud as they are able to, as a whistleblower, I guess, as loud as they're able to the Inspector General of the intelligence community? Why does that matter? Well, we're on the brink of war, everybody. You got this attack. Lindsey Graham is out there yesterday telling us this was an act of war, this attack on Saudi oil fields. It's an act of war. Iran cannot go without being punished. And, of course, the Saudis always rely on us to fight their crazy wars, right? And so it matters what intelligence we are told, whether or not it's credible. According to the intelligence community, the intelligence that we're getting is not to be believed. But Trump says the Saudi pays. That's enough reason to take our kids to war. I mean, this is really disgusting.
This attack on the oil refinery, by any reasonable definition, is an act of war. It is attacking the world economy. It's the stability of the oil markets throughout the world.
it's the oil markets around the world, everybody, that America has to protect. I saw somebody on Twitter last night respond to one of my tweets, and he said, don't you know that America, and that's how he wrote it, America is an oil company with an army? Damn, that sucks. You can't debate that, can you? Could you? I can't. America is an oil company with an army.
This attack on the oil refinery, by any reasonable definition, is an act of war. It is attacking the world economy. It's the stability of the oil markets throughout the world.
And then he said that Iran has to pay a price. But
this attack on
that's
the
the same.
oil...
It's the same clip.
This attack on
yeah,
the...
I have the same one twice. So then he said Iran has to pay a price, okay? And I'll tell you, the Iranians sat down. They gave an interview. Zarif, who was their, communications guy, their Secretary of State, essentially. What's going on in there? He actually said that if we do anything to any Iranian interests, it would be full out, full on, full frontal war. It'll be full frontal war.
What would be the consequence of an American or a Saudi military strike on Iran now?
An all-out war.
You make a very serious statement there, sir.
Well, I make a very serious statement about defending our country. I'm making a very serious statement that we don't want war. We don't want to engage in a military confrontation. We believe that a military confrontation based on deception is awful. We'll have a lot of casualties, but we won't blink to defend our territory.
Put yourself in Saudi Arabia's shoes. If there was an attack on Iranian sovereign territory with cruise missiles launched from Saudi Arabia, what would Iran's response be?
Well, they're making that up. Why do they want to make that up, that it was from Iranian territory? The Yemenis have announced responsibility for that. They have provided information about that. They have answered all the Saudi disinformation campaign about the fact that they launched this attack against Saudi Arabia in self-defense. Now, they want to pin the blame on Iran in order to achieve something, and that is why I'm saying this is agitation for war, because it's based on lies, it's based on deception. But you lie and deceive when it serves your interest. It doesn't even serve their interest.
It's an interesting point he makes. Not that I believe him or anybody right now. I don't believe our president. He lies about the weather. That's just a fact. President lies about the weather, the character of people who come from south of the border. He lies about in Helsinki, about our intelligence community. He sat on Lester Holt's show and admitted that he obstructed justice, that he fired James Comey to get rid of this Russia thing, right? I mean, he actually defends himself by tweeting he would never say anything inappropriate when all he does is say inappropriate things. He gave away our intelligence to the Sergeys in the Oval Office. I mean, this is upside down world. This is the world where America has lost its ability to be the person or the entity in the world that is trusted. That if America's intelligence agency says something, that you could take it to the bank. I mean, they've been denigrating that particular trust issue since the Iraq War, and now it's just out the window. So, I mean, at least the American people understood that the Iraq War was based on a lie. Now you can't even tell what's based on a lie, and it's just this is crazy. And Trump is literally just taking all the power of all the government, the whole government. The DOJ is his, right? The Supreme Court he believes is his. He believes that he needs to take the intelligence community and make it his. He's got the Senate. He lost the House, but it's all just a game. And what the game is I alone. I'm a unitary executive. I'm going to do what I want to do, and I'm going to do it to benefit me. Me, not the American people, who he doesn't really like. He doesn't like the American people. He pretends to like his base, but he doesn't like his base. He thinks they're stupid. Remember, Trump is a guy who, if you show him loyalty, he judges that as being an idiot. You're an idiot to trust me because I'm not trustworthy. And he always turns on you, right? Always. He's turned on every friend who ever got caught, right? Every friend that ever got caught, he just turns on them. So we're in a perilous situation. There will be testimony, though, next week.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Okay, here's Adam Schiff from about, I'd say an hour and a half ago.
We do know that the Department of Justice has been involved in the decision to withhold that information from Congress. We do not know, because we cannot get an answer to the question about whether the White House is also involved in preventing this information from coming to Congress. We do not have the complaint. We do not know whether the press reports are accurate or inaccurate about the contents of that complaint. But what I do know is this: if in a matter within the jurisdiction of the Director of National Intelligence, you have an employee of that community or a contractor or a detailee who follows the law and makes a complaint,
right,
and it is possible for the subject of that complaint to essentially quash the complaint or keep it from Congress, then this system is badly broken.
It is.
Now, I don't think this is a problem of the law. I think the law is written very clearly. I think the law is just fine. The problem lies elsewhere. And we're determined to do everything we can to determine what this urgent concern is, to make sure that the national security is protected, and to make sure that this whistleblower is protected. Because the impact of this opinion, which the Department of Justice has been unwilling to share with us, the impact of this opinion is that if the Department of Justice decides that an employee of the intelligence community who comes forward, follows the law, follows the process, is nonetheless outside the process, they're not protected.
Yeah.
Which not only means that this whistleblower is not protected, it means no whistleblower is protected. That is the danger of the DOJ's misinterpretation of the law.
It's just crazy. This is just really frightening. It truly is. And I have to tell you that the New York Times last night, the story that broke last night was a Washington Post story, and it was shocking to read it. It just, you get alerts if you're me or you when you care about this stuff, and you care about the integrity of America. You care that our word means something. You care about war and peace. You care about the troops that you say you support, then you pay attention, especially now when you've got some factions in this administration threatening all-out war against Iran. So that came out last night in the Washington Post just a few minutes ago, just now. The New York Times followed up with this article called "Whistleblower's Complaint is Said to Involve Multiple Acts by Trump." Multiple times. Donald Trump, a series of actions by Donald Trump. He said, or she said, we don't know, that it's more than any single discussion with a foreign leader that had him, his lights blinking red, his hair on fire. Something very sensitive through a series of acts. The complaint obviously cleared the initial hurdle. The initial hurdle is the Inspector General at the intelligence community. And that man's name is Atkinson. And Mr. Atkinson said this was credible and this was urgent. It was urgent. And that the referral had to go to Congress, had to go to the Intelligence Committee. And by law, that is the flow. That's the flow, right? And all of a sudden, the DNI, he's an acting, okay? We don't have a director of national intelligence. We have some third-rate, third choice, fourth choice, fifth choice guy sitting on top of, and the DNI, he is on top of all the intelligence agencies, every last one of them. Okay? And this guy is someone we've never confirmed. We don't know who this person is because there's no confirmation, because he's an acting. Okay? He's not confirmed. Replace Dan Coates. And then they selected John Ratcliffe from Texas, and then John Ratcliffe had zero experience in the intelligence community. And on top of it, he lied and said he had prosecuted, as a prosecutor, terrorist cases, but he never did. He just lied, like Corey Lewandowski. Oh, can I just tell you that Nancy Pelosi apparently agrees with me? Isn't that something? Nancy Pelosi said when she was watching Corey Lewandowski testify or do whatever that dog and pony show was in front of the Judiciary Committee the other day, that she felt that Corey Lewandowski should have been held in contempt right then and right there, which means the House should have invoked its authority of inherent contempt. Isn't that special? I wonder who else, in this whole media apparatus told you that. Just me. I'm guessing just me. But she agrees with me. She said last night that she thought that Corey Lewandowski should have been arrested and he should have been held in contempt, that the way he testified was contemptuous, that the amount of, insulting and the disrespect and he admitted to various felonies, that's for sure, but that he really should have been held in contempt right there and then. Those are her words only. Right there and then. And so today there's news that Corey Lewandowski will probably be held in contempt of Congress. And I guarantee you that the President of the United States will pardon him. Unless he doesn't. Unless he, turns on him like he turned on Michael Cohen. Unless he turns on him like he turned on Michael Flynn. Unless he turns on him like he turned on Paul Manafort. Right? Yeah. So Lewandowski, for all his, bravado and nastiness, he's in trouble. And that's great because I can't think of anybody. The only reason why Corey Lewandowski appears to be tough is because he's got protection. It's a racket, everybody. It's a freaking racket, this administration is. And as long as he feels he's got protection from the president, he's going to, sit there and, call congressmen names and ask them to read it and announce that he's running for Senate in the middle of the hearing by tweet, just like the president announces that he's going to put sanctions on Iran by tweet. I mean, this is just insanity. This is, the business of, world peace and safety and security and protecting, our soldiers and sailors, airmen and Marines after they're deployed and when they come up. This is serious business, whether you pay attention or not. The world will continue to grind its way into wars, into cheating, into stealing from you, whether you're paying attention or not. That's just a fact. So I would prefer to pay attention. I don't like being sandbagged. It feels bad. But Lewandowski's in big trouble. He is. He's in big trouble. And now you've got two hearings set up, okay, in the Intelligence Committee, not just Judiciary now. And the Intelligence Committee, chaired by Adam Schiff, is going to get a briefing, closed-door briefing, from the new acting DNI, Joe Maguire. But there's also, from the Inspector General, Atkinson. And then next Thursday, a week from today, Joe Maguire has been called to testify publicly in front of the House Intelligence Committee. So maybe we'll get some hints about how much danger we really are in. And is Trump really just serving Trump?
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
So far, the Director of National Intelligence, the nation's top intelligence official, is refusing to disclose details about this whistleblower complaint, saying essentially that there are other equities here, that this involves the communications of somebody who doesn't work for me, basically.
Yeah, it's the president.
So that has led to some speculation that this might be Trump, and we were able to confirm that today. I think it's important. One thing, other thing you just said, Brian, is very important, which is that this is really if not uncharted territory, then pretty close to it. You're basically, we're sitting on a story here where an official who works for the U.S. intelligence community is troubled enough by what the President of the United States has said in a call with a foreign leader that he went to the intelligence community's watchdog agency to report it.
And it's worse than that. That was last night. And, I tell you, these reporters are amazing. They are intrepid. To get this information, to actually report this for the benefit of the American people. I got to say, the Washington Post, it's been doing the most amazing job on this particular story. New York Times followed up today and said, oh, no, it's not just a phone call. It wasn't just one thing. It wasn't just one meeting or anything like that. It is a series of things that Donald Trump has engaged in, promises that he is making to a foreign leader, right? That is putting in jeopardy the national security of the United States of America. We were talking to a guy yesterday who was like, what about the oath? And I was explaining to him that the oath is kind of a traditional thing, right? It's the Constitution that actually describes what happens when a president does anything like, traitor, like becomes a traitor to his nation. You can't say that Donald Trump committed treason because we're not in a shooting war with any of who they suspect are the 5 leaders, okay? They think it could be the Prime Minister of Pakistan, it could be Kim Jong-un, could be President Xi of China, it could be, who else did they mention? Putin. They mentioned 5 different leaders, right? That the information was leading to by going over a timeline of who Donald Trump met with inside that time period that the whistleblower was referring to. So we know that the whistleblower was referring to a period of time between August and now. And so the reporters, they go over all of the meetings that the president had with various foreign leaders, and they've narrowed it down to 5 people. But we don't know it. And what's really sick about this is that the Department of Justice, Bill Barr, and the President of the United States are instructing the Director of National Intelligence, the acting director. We don't have a confirmed intelligence chief. We don't have that. I mean, this president loves to brag about the military power that we have, the nuclear weapons, the ultimate penalty. He loves to brag about how much money he spends on the military and how these missiles and our fighter jets and our planes and the F-16's a good one and the F-35's a better one and blah, 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 how it's all for sale. It's all for sale, right? But we can't believe a word this man says. And you've got people who are watching what he's doing and promising to people who are not aligned. They're not allied with the United States. They're not allied with our allies, obviously. And they are freaked out by him. And they go and report it. And then all of a sudden, the Department of Justice in the White House commands their acting director of the entire intelligence apparatus to not follow the law that requires that he report it to Congress. You know what's creepy, though? No, it's really creepy. My best guess, he's going to get away with it. Know why? Because all of this law that I'm talking about that governs the intelligence community, which is super uber protected for our safety and theirs, does not permit, and this is what Bill Barr knows, and this is what the DNI has been told, and this is what Trump has been, I won't say briefed. I mean, somebody just said, you don't worry about it. These laws that apply to the intelligence community, according to the law, is not subject to judicial review. Know what that means? Can't go to court. Can't get the court involved. And if the court can't get involved, this goes back to the conversation I was having with the guy yesterday. That means there's only one prescription for what's wrong with this president, and that is outlined in the Constitution. It's called impeachment. And we keep making this list. The list just gets longer and longer and longer and longer. Everything from, high crimes and misdemeanors. A misdemeanor, lying about the weather. Falsifying a weather report, Section 18 of the U.S. Code, 2074, I think. It's a misdemeanor to falsify an official weather report. He did that with his Sharpie. That's the least of it, right? No, it isn't. It's not the least of it. I mean, that's millions of people who don't know whether to believe anything anymore about if it's coming. Should they board up? Should they get water? Should they leave? Should they evacuate? Do you find a place for your pets? What about your elderly? Should you get prescriptions filled? Lines at the drugstore, lines at the gas station. I mean, everything he does creates chaos. And a lot of the things he's doing, the courts already have. Is that fast enough for you to stop this, I don't know, this march to war with Iran, or to stop the giving of secrets to adversaries of the United States, or to stop the interfering in our elections that the Russians are engaged in? Or, I mean, no, it isn't. It's not enough, and it's not. So I keep looking. When will the American people support impeachment? When will the American people start talking to pollsters and say, this has all got to come to an end? I mean, would it be the start of a war? Would it be? I mean, I don't know what it would be for you. For me, it was Russia, if you're listening. Okay? It was during the campaign that I felt this man should never be sworn in. Okay? That I felt he ought to be hauled off. For collusion, for conspiring with a foreign adversary, for asking them for help. That was it for me. Helsinki should have been it for everybody else. Truly, he was already president. When he stood on a stage with Vladimir Putin and actually spoke like a traitor to this nation, when he actually denigrated the intelligence community's findings that Russia interfered in our elections, just right then and there. That should have been it. It wasn't enough. It's not enough for some of these people. It's just not enough. And I got news for you. 70% of Democrats are for impeachment. Those are the numbers. There's a new poll out. 70% of Democrats. But that's just not, scooping up the independents. Only 31% of independents are for impeachment. And independents, like it or not, they are the ones who decide our elections. That is who a swing voter is. That is somebody that judges the lay of the land at the time that they are voting. It's not the long view. It's not a commitment to change. It's not a commitment to anything other than, how do I feel right now? I could go either way. That's an independent, right? I'm sort of I'm a progressive independent, meaning I have a commitment to progressive policies because I believe in consumers. I believe that our economy, 70% of the entire economy, factually, is consumer driven. And so for me, the long view says protect the consumer who's got to buy prescription drugs. Protect the consumer who's got to buy health insurance. Protect the consumer who needs to get a home loan. Protect the consumer who's buying education. It's just, for me, it's a no-brainer. So I have a long-term commitment to those goals. That's what makes me a progressive, okay? Am I also an independent? Yes. Why? Because I don't trust corporate to tell me anything. I think that they have a fiduciary obligation to act in their own best interest, so I'm not going to throw in with them. And I don't trust the Republican Party because they seem to govern based on their own best interests and not the American people. So that's how I end up voting the way I vote. But independents who are not progressive independents, who can go either way, only 31% of them are in support for impeachment. 50% of them say no. And in order to win in 2020, we need their votes, like it or not. So we got to get outside the bubble and we have to look and know the lay of the land. But if I can't convince, listen, I told you, I'm not concerned about the 26% of American people who still identify as being members of, this ridiculous Republican Party that serves absolutely nobody but the donors to the Republican Party. I can't explain it. I can't concern myself with them. But I do care a great deal about us and independents who could coalesce with us, who could help us. Why don't you guys get that this president is a danger to our national security and to our soldiers?
Mary had
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe it.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Mr. Lewandowski, your behavior in this hearing room has been completely unacceptable. And it is part of a pattern by a White House desperate for the American people not to hear the truth. I have been asked several times today whether the committee will hold you in contempt. That is certainly under consideration.
Yes, and you need to do it. And now the Speaker of the House says that she is, she would have had Corey Lewandowski arrested there and then. So do it. Here's what has to happen in order for that to happen. All right, so it's just a simple resolution, and it needs to be voted on by the House Judiciary Committee, who was abused by Corey Lewandowski. Where, by the way, I played you Karen Bass. She, and also the lawyer, Barry Burke. You know why Barry Burke, the lawyer, the attorney for the Judiciary Committee, was so effective? You want to know why? Because he played video clips. That's why. He played video clips of Corey Lewandowski saying things on the TV. And then after he saw the video clips of himself saying things on the TV, he was asked, was he telling the truth then or is he telling the truth now? That's why, and I don't understand why they don't use video clips. I mean, can you imagine having a hearing where, especially this hearing that's going to happen next week with the acting director of the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, right? You got this he's the fourth pick. Okay, so here's how it went. We had Dan Coates, he was the DNI. Dan Coates couldn't take it anymore, so he resigned. Sue Gordon was supposed to be, by law, she was supposed to be the next acting, okay? And Donald Trump said, no, I don't want Sue Gordon. She knows too much. She's too smart. I can't bamboozle her. Whatever his reason is, okay? He didn't want Sue Gordon. So Sue Gordon, instead of staying there, she wrote a resignation letter and said, you know what? Screw it. I don't want to work for you. What she said was, you should have your own team. Bye-bye. And all that experience walked out the door. Because Donald Trump doesn't want somebody with experience. He wants somebody that he can corrupt. He wants somebody that will cover up. He wants a loyalist. You cannot have loyalists in charge of the things that keep us safe at night, okay? Because this president gives security clearances to son-in-laws and daughters that the law enforcement agencies and the intelligence agencies say should never have security clearances because they're compromised. They owe too much money, and they will do anything and trade intelligence for loans to bail them out of billion-dollar business boondoggles like 6666 Fifth Avenue, right? That's what they said about Jared. And he still let Jared read the presidential daily briefing every single day. And what did Jared do with it? He went over to the Saudis. He gave the Saudis the information they craved, they wanted, they needed desperately in order to have this 36-year-old snot-nose take over the Saudi kingdom. And that guy then, 2 weeks later, after receiving this information from Jared, told everybody, Jared Kushner's in my pocket, and then proceeded to gather up these enemies of the state, family members, and torture them to death in the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. This Saudi king also killed a Washington Post reporter. He didn't just kill him. He freaking dismembered him with a bone saw and disposed of Jamal Khashoggi's body in garbage bags. The president, ISIS, they behead people. It's real medieval stuff. I mean, honestly, this is crazy. And so now we're stuck somewhere in the middle of two of the most disgusting regimes known to man who are involved in a religious war between themselves. I thought when your enemy was, fighting each other, you stood back and let it happen. I thought that was the art of war, the art of the deal. So you got this Shia Sunni thing happen between, Saudi and Iran. Let them do it. Oh, no, he's picked Saudi Arabia. And he's going to give our intel to Saudi Arabia. By the way, that's one of the people that they think could be a possible recipient of several promises by the president that put American national security in jeopardy. See, this stuff matters. It matters. Okay, so we went through Dan Coates. He's gone. Sue Gordon, she resigned, right? Then he said, okay, we'll pick a congressman from Texas, John Ratcliffe, who auditioned during one of the hearings by beating up a witness, right, in front of everybody. That didn't work out because statutorily the man was not qualified. And thank God we have some rules about who can be the DNI. So Ratcliffe couldn't make it. So now we're down to this guy that nobody's ever heard, Joe McGuire. I just don't even understand. And he's going to testify next Thursday. And he's going to tell us that he was instructed by the president not to deliver what he is required to deliver to the intel committees in both the House and the Senate. And that is the Inspector General's report that says that somebody was in the intelligence community, went to the Inspector General to report that the President of the United States is committing acts of traitor. I mean, he's behaving like a traitor. Things that are urgent, things that are of concern, urgent concern, things that are deemed to be credible threats to the United States. The Inspector General looked at it and agreed. That's the lay of the land. That's what's going on. President is engaged in multiple activities that have put the safety and the security of the United States in jeopardy. I need to relay this to Congress. And this temporary acting dude, who's the fourth guy that we've tried to get to say yes to this job, said, now I'm in a conundrum because the President of the United States is telling me not to give the report, but the law is saying that I have to. And I don't know what to do. How sick is this? How sick is this? Donald Trump is literally breaking the government, and he has been breaking the government, into little shards so that he can do whatever he wants to do, so that he can avoid oversight, so that he can. That's Bill Barr as a fixer. He's the new Michael Cohen, and he has just translated this. Now, who cares if Donald Trump cheats the business other than the people that he cheats? You know, the people that paid $36,000 to go to Trump University, they cared. Did you? Obviously not. Obviously not. Independents voted for him. They wanted some change, and they thought that, a tough businessman who cheats people would be a great fit for the United States. But this is the United States that he's breaking. This is the United States that he's building into a fraudulent free country. It's not really free anymore. It's not. It has no checks and balances. It doesn't have accountability built into it. It doesn't have decency, honesty, transparency. It doesn't have judicial review. It doesn't have all the things that a nation of laws, and the great democracy that we were, had. Those things are being taken away agency by agency. When you hire a lobbyist who used to represent the coal industry to head up the EPA, that's corruption. When you give a tax cut to your wealthy donors, that's corruption. When you infuse yourself or insert yourself into the intelligence community and call them Nazis and denigrate them and stand on a stage in Helsinki and speak like a traitor to this nation, that's more than corruption. That is somebody who is committing, I won't say treason because we're not at war, but that is somebody who is behaving as a traitor. Now, Michael Flynn was a traitor. According to the judge that tried him, he said, when did you decide to be a traitor to your nation? And that's the kind of person Donald Trump looks for, somebody that will be a traitor to their nation to advance their own power, to advance their own, position. And for those of you who think there's a deep state that's working tirelessly and secretly, they are so complacent, these people. Anybody who is working for Trump now, after knowing all that we know, seeing all that we've seen, anybody who hasn't tendered their resignation, and think about this, all those generals are gone, and he wants to take us to war. All the generals are gone, because he knows more than the generals. These are complacent people.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randi Rhodes Show.
So there almost undoubtedly is a record of this call. Calls made by presidents out of the Oval Office to foreign leaders are always witnessed. There are always others who participate or witness or record the calls, take notes. In previous administrations, those notes would end up being distributed across the national security community to keep other people and other government employees apprised of what was discussed and what was decided. This White House has curtailed that practice significantly, in part because of a story that I wrote early in Trump's presidency, in which he disclosed classified information to Russian officials in the Oval Office.
Right. Thank you for that story. These guys are incredible. I mean, journalists are amazing. They just follow the story. That's it. They just follow the facts wherever they lead. That happens to be Greg Miller. He's from the Washington Post. These are important things, and most people don't read a stinking newspaper. But like I said, I don't like being sandbagged. And this president of ours is not concerned with the United States of America. He is concerned with the Trump dynasty. He's concerned that his son-in-law gets information that people literally die to get. He's only concerned that his daughter gets 200 patents in China for, marginally okay shoes. I mean, this is insanity. This is craziness. And then he sits there and he tells the American people, he tells the conservatives, he tells the people, support the troops, the ones that would put a flag on their car, twice the size of their car, and carry a support weapon with them at all times, their support AK, right, to make them feel better. These are the people that care about the troops. And you got a president diverting money from the housing debacle that is on-base housing, that is full of termites and mold and electricity, that electrical systems that are fried, that could catch fire, asbestos laden, and he takes the money from the repairs that were supposed to go to that, and he puts it on a stupid wall that nobody wants or needs. It's ridiculous what's going on here. Just to appeal to those people who drive around with a flag twice the size of their car and their AK support weapon in their trunk. It's on their backs now. They walk around, freaking Walmart with it. Steve in New York.
Hi. Today.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make a comment real quick about the whole high crimes and misdemeanors thing.
Mm-hmm.
You have to take the whole phrase, it's a term of art dating back to around the Magna Carta, and it essentially means abuses of power. It's not, you can't take the term misdemeanor as we would think of the term misdemeanor. So it's high crimes and misdemeanors, and among those things are bribery, treason, and it says other high crimes and misdemeanors. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Basically, what it's saying is that a president cannot abuse the powers given to him.
Correct.
Right.
Which would arguably include the pardon power. The one thing that really has begun to scare me the more I've looked at this, and I really think we're headed towards this, is we're headed towards an instance in which the courts rule against him. And he basically says, he pulls, I believe it was Andrew Jackson, the court has made its order, now let them enforce it.
Right.
And I am afraid that that's where we're going to be, where he's just, and whatever, you think of Nixon and even George W. Bush, the one little speck of decency they all each had was when the Supreme Court, or when a court said, no, sorry, you lose, you have to turn over the tape, or you have to do this, they did it.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's going to.
Yeah, and I've told everybody, that defying the court of last resort, the Supreme Court, that right there is the most obvious case of a constitutional crisis. But we're already in one. We're in one on so many fronts.
We've been in one since the day he was inaugurated, when the emoluments clause became an issue.
Well, that too. But you know what? We've been in a constitutional crisis since Mitch McConnell decided that he would block Merrick Garland from the Supreme Court because he didn't like the black president. And that, he was going to gamble with a Supreme Court seat. That was impeachable. And nobody did anything about it. And so now they feel very free to disrespect Congress and to do anything. That's right.
And you know what? I fear that what's going to need to happen is we're going to get to a Hong Kong moment. And the only thing to do is to take to the streets. And I have to ask myself, are we as a people up to that?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I honestly don't know the answer to that. But yeah, I fear that too. It's what I think about all the time, and I talk to Howard, and Howard says to me all the time, Randy, when is it time to flee? When is it time to go? And I always tell him, I'll let you know. I'll let you know. And I will. But I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready to go.
We're getting there, and it honestly scares the hell out of me.
And people think it's going to happen, that this kind of fascism or communism, whatever ism you want to assign to whatever it is Donald Trump is, they think that it happens overnight. Well, it doesn't. It happens incrementally. It happens through enabling acts. It happens when a president defies a court order. It happens when the acting secretary of the intelligence, the office of the director of national intelligence, refuses to hand over a report that says that the president is compromising our national security. It happens when Corey Lewandowski was able to sit there and be disrespectful in the face of a subpoena and not answer questions, defying a subpoena. It happens when Rick Dearborn doesn't show up. It happens when Hope Hicks doesn't show up. It happens when Jared Kushner gets a security clearance over the objection of the law enforcement agencies. I mean, it's been going on, and this is how it happens. And Trump is such a bully that unless you stand up to him, he's going to take it all the way until he gets caught.
And the scariest thing is something else. Is it's one of these things everyone in their life has seen a scene, has watched something that they couldn't believe, and it just shocked them. They stood in awe of it, no matter what it was. And you found yourself paralyzed and didn't know what to do. And that's what this is coming down to. Is I watched part of the Lewandowski thing, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I can't be what this can't be true. This can't be real. You understand what we're getting into weird, crazy territory where
all bets are off is what you're trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. And I just want to put this out there for the Trump supporters or the people that are like, I don't know, I like a tough guy. If Donald Trump wins this entire debacle of consolidating power, right? What will you have won? Because that's the question they're going to have to answer for themselves. If they want this fight, this bad, ugly, dirty, nasty fight against freedom, because that's what Donald Trump is against. He's against a free press. He's against, transparency. He's against checks and balances, obviously, right? So if he prevails, because you think he's so tough he might, what will you have won? That's the question.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randy, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Okay, so today is a great day. It is the best day to donate to Free Speech TV because one of the things we tell you about Free Speech TV is that they are able to connect viewers to policymakers and organizers. And that is what they did today. They found a whole group of people who are willing to match your donations up to $12,000. That's a lot of dollars. So if you gave $10 today, it would be $20. $100 becomes a $200 donation. And this all goes to pay the payroll of the people that work at Free Speech TV. There's about 16 people, the rent on their building, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very important. We don't take a salary from Free Speech TV. This is our contribution to their efforts. And so today is a great day for you to go to freespeech.org and click on donate, or just go to freespeech.org/ donate, and you'll end up on the donate page, or pick up the phone and call 877-378-8669. Toll free, 877-378-8669. And thank you on behalf of all those kids. Some of them are my age, but for the most part, they're very hardworking people, and I like them. So they could use your support today. Linwood in Virginia.
Miss Randi, it's been a while since we had a constructive conversation.
I don't recall having a constructive conversation with you.
Well, we try.
We do try.
But, well, I do. I'm still learning. But here's my question to you.
Mm-hmm.
Should the Democrats next time focus more on outmaneuvering their legal opponents? Because what we saw here at this committee meeting was pretty much an if show.
Oh, I
and
thought.
Listen,
I'll tell you this. No, what he did was completely bizarre and disrespectful and thuggish. Okay, but what they got from him was, in many ways, admissions to felonies. Some questioners were able to elicit from him admissions of his own guilt, that he aided and abetted in the obstruction of an investigation into Donald Trump's obstruction.
Well, they didn't even arrest him because he did make threatening remarks to a sitting member of Congress.
I would have. I told you I would have.
When he made the remark, I had guns in my closet.
Oh, definitely. There's no question I would have actually moved to to adjourn. And then I would have gathered all the staffers. I would have said, write me up a quick resolution for holding him in inherent contempt. And then I would have come back, taken a quick vote. Obviously, Democrats have the majority on that committee. It would have prevailed. And I would have had the sergeant-at-arms come and get him. I would have done that. There's no question I would have done that.
Can you also, another question I want to ask, should the Democrats start using subversion
to
charge against this president?
No. We don't need to.
Okay.
The President of the United States has openly admitted that he asked Russia for help, that he got that help, that his son met with them, that the NRA was infiltrated by Maria Butina, that Alexander Torshin had lured Republican senators over to Russia many, many times, that they had...
Yes, I actually read that in the report.
Yeah.
I read that in the Mueller report.
Oh, my God. That's the problem, is the Mueller report is kind of dry, but it's
very dry.
But it's chock full of traitorous activity, obstruction of justice, accepting help from a country that was involved in sweeping and systemic hacking of the challenging party, the Democrats. It's all there. All that they're trying to do with these hearings is bring it to life, try to get the American people to pay attention to it. And as long as they don't, and as long as the independents just go around singing la-di-dee, la-di-da, and they're not saying to anybody who matters, like their Congress members, that they are supporting impeachment now, then, things will remain this way, and we'll keep our fingers crossed that we have a free and fair election. And the only remedy is to make up your mind before silly season, right? To make up your mind based on everything that's transpired thus far, right now. Because silly season's going to start right after Christmas. February is when the first primaries start, okay? You got Iowa, February 3rd, then you got New Hampshire, February 11th, then you got South Carolina. California's early this year. I believe theirs is in March. But you're going to have people voting. Okay, and once that happens, you're going to be inundated with propaganda. So much of it that it's going to blow your mind, and they're going to try and change your mind, and they're going to try and, insist on, things that happened or are happening right in front of your face. They're going to try and tell you it's not. Don't believe it. Don't believe your own eyes and ears. Believe the almighty, all-powerful, demagogic, Trump the leader. I mean, it's sick. But you got to do that. Got to do that. Linda in Seattle.
Hi, Randy?
Yes.
Thank you so much for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I wanted to comment on your issue with the independents at 31%.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Democrats need to pay attention to their base. The Republicans certainly do, and obviously they don't care about the independents. We've got 70% of the Democrats pushing for impeachment. Pelosi needs to do the job she took an oath for. She needs to stop waiting for something to happen. The Mueller report, now the polls. I mean, the net of it is there's always going to be something. And this is emboldening Trump every time she, finds another excuse to keep from impeaching him.
Yeah, but what you're leaving out. I mean, look, I'm in this frame of mind. The law is the law. The president has violated it in front of my face over and over and over and over, and he will keep doing it to the detriment of the American people, to the detriment of our national security, et cetera, until he's caught and captured, okay, and tried. However, she doesn't have the votes to impeach him. We have about 130. You need 200.
She can whip the. Well, you know what? She
can't whip the votes because what you have right now is 218 needed and only 130 say yes.
But that's because she keeps stepping on the vote. Every time she turns around, there's so much confusion surrounding whether or not
she's not making up their minds. She's not making up their minds. They're doing polling in their home districts, and they're deciding whether the independents who they need to win again, because the districts are so gerrymandered, especially in very, troubled places like Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina. If there's Democrats from those places, they're looking to see, where are the independents, because I can't win without them. And they're doing their own internal polling. And if their polling tells them that they can't win, they're not going to give their vote for impeachment. They're going to just say the best thing to do is to vote.
But we don't know what that vote's even going to work.
No, I understand that. I'm not against you. I'm just telling you what it looks like out there. I'm telling you outside the bubble, that is the reality.
Well, she needs to do her job.
And what is her job?
To start the impeachment process.
Her job is to keep the caucus together. Her job is to keep the caucus together, and her job is to pass legislation. That is her job. That's what the Speaker of the House does. The Judiciary Committee, they vote for articles of impeachment, and then that goes to the Senate. So get out of the bubble.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Nice response today, everybody, on the telephone. I'm very thrilled with this. All right, Jessica in Wisconsin.
Hi, Randi, the first-time caller.
Oh, hey.
Hey. So, I've been listening to you for a little while now, and I just wanted to comment on the whole whistleblower thing.
Okay.
Okay, so on July 28th, Trump announces that Dan Coates is leaving. So on August 15th, that's the day he leaves.
Okay.
That also happens to be the day the whistleblower filed the complaint. Same day.
Almost. The whistleblower filed the complaint on August 12th. So Dan Coates had tendered his resignation prior to this whistleblower filing this report. He did leave. Right. He did leave 3 days later. But that does mean.
But like you had already stated, there was many calls, several different things with this foreign leader, whoever it is. So this had to take place over a period of time.
Right.
I'm thinking Dan Coates found out, confronted Trump, and had it.
It's very possible because Dan Coates was embarrassed publicly by Donald Trump many, many times during his tenure, not just in Helsinki. But remember the Andrea Mitchell sit down, and then all of a sudden, as he's being interviewed by Andrea Mitchell, it's announced that Putin's coming to America, and Dan Coates knew nothing about it as the director of national intelligence. So there's that. And then
Miss Gordon wouldn't take the job either.
Well, she wanted the job. Trump said no to her because she knew.
Oh, okay. Then I was wrong about that. Sorry.
Oh, no, she was next in line statutorily. I mean, there is a order, to the intelligence community, and she was supposed to be the acting director, but Trump refused. He didn't want her, and it's likely because she understood that the president had engaged in multiple attempts to undermine the national security of the United States, and she probably would have pursued it. So she would have sent this referral over to Congress, okay? And so he told her he didn't want her. And so she tendered her resignation, and Sue Gordon, when she walked out the door, took years, 20 years of experience in intelligence collection out the door with her. And she wrote a one-sentence resignation, you should have the team you want, and walked out the door. And then he was going to get Ratcliffe from Texas, and he had no qualifications. And that told you that he wanted a loyalist, right? Above and he doesn't care about protecting the United States. Couldn't care less.
Oh, I agree.
Right.
I agree. I think that if Dan Coates does know the contents of all these calls, what was said, I think he has a duty to America, to the United States of America, to step forward. And he needs to talk.
Well,
and he needs to tell.
But here's
the
problem.
I mean, it's right now they're party over country, and that's not right.
No, it's totally not right. But the law prevents him from disclosing anything he might have learned as DNI. He would have to do the same damn thing. He would have to go to this Atkinson guy, the inspector general, and he would have to file his complaint, and he would have to say what he witnessed, and he would have to tell it to the inspector general. The inspector general would then have to transmit it to Congress. But again, we would end up in the same circular firing squad that they got going on here to cut out Congress, right? Because the DNI, believe it or not, Dan Coates, the DNI, and the current DNI are subordinate, meaning less than the inspector general. So, right. And the president.
But I mean, how did this story break last night? Because somebody spoke to the press. They all have their ways of speaking to a press, every single one of them, including the one where they wrote the letter, was it to the New York Times, where they were, don't worry, we're looking out for you, we're in here.
Yeah.
Nobody found out who that was. So Dan Coates knows how to work the system, too. So he knows how to get the information out.
You're right. You're right.
So that's what I mean. He has a duty, and he knows how to do it, especially being DNI. He knows how to do this.
You're right.
And somebody needs to speak up, because like you have said for months, we are in a constitutional crisis.
Yeah.
And we have been. And these leaders need to stand up, and they need to stand against him and his bullying. And he needs to go to prison, as where Trump needs to be. He doesn't need to be in our White House. He needs to be in the big house.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Randy.
Well, thank you. Thanks for talking it through.
Well, thank you.
All right.
Have a good day.
You too. All right, let's try April in South Carolina.
Randy.
Hi.
Hi, honey.
Hi.
Hi. So, listen, have you heard of the Gallivan Ferry dump speech in South Carolina?
No.
Okay, well, it's a 143-year tradition where the presidential, or candidates, this is the first presidential speech, they come and they stand at a big oak stump and they give their speech.
Uh-huh.
And so you're going to love this. So the guy, the South Carolina diehard Republican who loves Trump, Red Hats for Trump, the originator of the MAGA Red Hats, they all decided they were going to plan this big event and protest our Gallivan's Ferry 143-year tradition. And presidential candidates like Amy came, Pete was there, Biden was there. They had 10 people that showed up.
For the Democrats?
No, for the Red Hats for Trump. They all had a flipping out this whole week because they had 10 people come.
In South Carolina, only 10 Trump supporters?
And this is Red Hats for Trump.
Wow.
You don't understand. This is big. This guy is huge.
That's great news. Thank you.
He only pulled 10 people.
That's
so,
awesome.
Listen, I know. How awesome is that? You know what? We got to celebrate the victories.
Yeah, you do. You have to take your joy where you can find it. I agree with you. Any good news is welcome now. You know,
you got to go look up. Yeah, look up Gallivan's Ferry.
All right.
Just got it. It was amazing.
I will.
And Mayor Pete also announced a new disaster preparedness policy in the city of Conway. And I was fortunate enough to be named in his policy and in his speech because I'm a flooded family working with flooded families here. So you got to go check it out.
The whole country is flooded. This is the most amazing thing.
I know.
It's
know.
just incredible. I mean, the New York Times had
2,000 families.
Oh
in
my
town.
God! Oh my God! That's horrible.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Including my little family. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's going to divert money to the wall.
Well, check out Mayor Pete's policy because it's awesome, and I contributed to it.
Okay.
And he's the only one that has a disaster preparedness policy. So,
all right.
It's pretty cool. All right. Take care. Keep shining.
Thank you. Thanks for the news.
Okay.
I appreciate it so much. Roy in Texas. Roy.
Hello.
Hi, Roy. Shh.
Hello.
Hi, Roy.
Hi.
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 Hi. Bye, Roy. Kathy and Callie.
Kathy and Davis?
Yes.
Okay. I've been a long-time listener, and
Got the cutest girl voices today. It's just adorable.
Sorry. Anyway, welcome back to Free Speech TV.
Thank you.
And what I wanted to say, it really bugs me that Nancy Pelosi doesn't have more Democrats voting for impeachment, and it seems like that she should be able to get the DNC to help put pressure on people who might be coming up for re-election so that if they don't fall into line a little bit more, that they'll get primaried or the DNC will support somebody who is more progressive.
Well, it just depends on the makeup of the district, right? I mean, who are the voters in that person's district? So maybe their voters are more conservative than we are, and that member knows this. So if you primaried with a progressive, it might not work when we could lose the seat. That is what her job is, and that's what the DNC is. It's about keeping the caucus together and keeping a majority and passing legislation. The job of impeachment is the job of the Judiciary Committee.
Yeah.
Right?
I would just like the Democrats to at least vote for the impeachment and let the fallout from Republicans going in the Senate going on record as not supporting removal. Or Mitch McConnell being the Grim Reaper.
I think we know what the votes would look like. I'm not saying that's a reason not to hold this man accountable under the rules of the Constitution. I believe he needs to be impeached. I would like to see it happen right now. That's part of the media, independent media. That's part of our job, is to explain it to people who still don't get it.